Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to show you how to move, or maybe how not to move, a shipping container. Now in this video we're just going to be moving it on our property. We're never going to take it on the road. So this is not that video. But what we're going to do is we're going to use the tools that we have on hand, and we are going to move this shipping container from the middle of the property up to the top of our property where our shipping container home is. This is going to be used for A, storage, but B, it's going to house our sensitive electrical components like inverters, batteries, solar controllers, etc. The first thing we need to do with this container to be able to get it up the hill is we need to move this thing off of the slope that it's on and onto flat ground. So really these first few tugs is just to get it off of the blocks that it's on and get it closer to the road. Once it's closer to the road and angled in the correct direction, then we can sort of just drag it up the hill. This was not as easy as I anticipated. As a pretty much empty, again, I mean maybe there's a couple 100 pounds worth of stuff in there. These containers weigh about 10,000 pounds. So I figured I would try the diesel first. So I backed the ram dually up, we chained it up, and we pulled it. And it did pull a little bit. But you can see there, it immediately digs into the dirt. And that has to do with the angle that it sits at. So tried to drop it into 4 low and give it another tug, but it really wasn't going anywhere significantly. So what's the next best course of action? I said, okay, we'll get the Peterbilt, we'll bring it in, we'll back it up, and guys, this thing is a beast. When it comes to torque, I mean, these things are great. So I locked up the axle diffs in the back, backed this thing up, chained it up, and thought, you know, this should work. And it was the same thing. There was really no weight down on the axles. So it couldn't get anywhere. We kind of just buck and spin. I mean, we jerked it a few feet, but we really didn't get anywhere. So we tried a few more ways to try to get this thing down to the road so that we could pull it in the direction that we needed. I'll let you guys just kind of watch and see the different steps we took. But this was really an interesting event. I think I learned something every time we do something like this. But let this be a lesson to you guys on maybe what to do or what not to do. The good part is definitely coming up. So what you can't see in this video is how hot it is. Right now it's the middle of August in Central Texas, and what you get with that is the sweltering jungle heat. Actually, the humidity's not so bad today. It has been for a few weeks. We've had a lot of rain here. But we're very fortunate to have some dry weather so that we can complete projects like this. But you will see the heat reflected in our uniforms. It was definitely a warm experience. I had to change phones here, and you'll see, I guess you can see in the corner of the screen that that's actually the nose of our camper. So if you see me making little short turns, that is because I am very close to a number of other things. I am chained up to it at this point with the Ford. Just thought maybe I could take off with it, but one of the things I've learned in the past with these containers is once they dig in, you have to give them some motivation to lift the front end off the ground. So it was at this point that we said, okay, well, let's disconnect these chains, let's get the tensioners out, and let's do exactly what we did in the past. So we take the tail lights off of the cabin chassis, we back this thing up, and then you can see that we go to work and tension the front of it off the ground. Once we did that, it left an immense amount of weight on the rear of the vehicle. So this V10 gas truck was actually able to just drive off with it. And on flat ground, it can do that all day long. Once you try to make a turn or go uphill, it's a little bit different story. So today, I really wanted the Peterbilt to be worth something on this project. It runs great. You know, we've done a couple of things to it to get it in that position, so I wanted to use it. And I tried to nose up, but the bumper didn't stick out far enough not to damage the grille. So I had to swap back out, which actually I think turned out to be a blessing. If you guys don't have a flatbed on your truck, or you've ever thought about getting a flatbed, and you know, maybe you're thinking there's pros and cons. Well, this is reason number like 7,552 as to why you should have a flatbed. This thing is awesome. I beat the shit out of the flatbed all the time, and it just works. So like today, I'm able to back up to this thing, and the only damage that ensued from this was I got a little bit of blue paint on one of the brackets on the flatbed. So this is great. You can see I was able to somehow convince Lauren to drive the F350 while I gave it a little push from the back. The Ford was just binding up as we tried to turn this thing, and you know, unfortunately that V10 just didn't have the power that it needed to get up the hill. And the reason we didn't swap those vehicles out is there was really no very effective way to put the chains on the flatbed and tension them up. Hindsight being 2020, maybe there was a way for me to get it onto a couple of those brackets, but at the time it didn't make a lot of sense. We figured we would just back into it. What you can't see in this particular part is we're going uphill. It's a pretty fair size hill at this point, so I keep having to switch in and out of four-wheel drive to give this thing a push going backwards. So we finally clear the hill. We get up, we get into space, and everything's good to go. We need to level the container. The slope is very gradual on this part of the property, but it's fairly pronounced, so I didn't really have to guess very hard on what needed to go where, how much it needed to be lifted. So I've got the level out, got the shovel out, and I think that's either a 3.5 or 3 ton jack. So this should be easy, right? One of the things about this property is there are certain areas of the property where we do have a bit of soil, but this particular part, I mean, if you go down like an inch or two, it is nothing but rocks, and you can get some sizable rocks out of there. I don't know if the time lapse is going to give a very good view of the huge rock that I end up pulling out of here, but leveling is supposed to be the easy part. It really just ended up being time consuming, but I was able to get it after enough digging and enough effort. I was able to get the front leveled, and then I get the back over leveled or unleveled. Well, either way, I had to rethink it. The block was too big in the back, so I had to come back and use a couple of boards instead. But the final measurements there on on the leveling, it came really close. So this took us a few hours, but I think the coolest part is we were able to move this thing with the tools that we had, no damage to speak of, got this thing up the hill, and so now we're going to look forward to framing out at least the back half of it. I've already ordered the spray foam kit, so this should be a pretty interesting process to get this thing built out to be a powerhouse and a bit of a storage container. So we appreciate you guys checking us out and following along. I know that this has been fun and sometimes just interesting for us. So again, thanks. If you like it, look forward to seeing you on the next one.